So I have Anthony here, and Anthony is a mind blowing artist, photographer, architect. So I met you, I was looking for a photographer for my album,
Mhm.
and I wanted a really like dreamy type of photo.
Yeah.
And you're in something like Alien, and you did like an Alien series
I
where
did.
you did these like really gritty, dreamy um, portraits where people's necks were elongated and
Yeah.
their eyes were like enlarged, and I was like, nobody in Memphis is doing that, so I want to do that. So I wanted to bring you on here to talk about your creative life. So what does your creative practice look like?
My creative practice is very experimental. Um, and it's partly that way because I went to architecture school, and most people who are artists in this city obviously didn't do that. And so I feel like in a lot of ways that set me apart from my peers. And I kind of like leaned into that a lot. I kind of approach everything I do from like a very conceptual beginning, thinking of like, I'll think of words and try to create like an atmosphere in my head of what I want whatever I make to feel like. And I use that and kind of try my best to weave that into like every step of the process from sketching. I sketch a lot of the photos before I even like take photos. I don't know. It's just experimental, I guess. I try to take my time and not take things too seriously. I'll trash something very quickly if I'm not thinking that it's like working in the way that I want it and then start over, which is also another thing that I learned in school is to not be married to like
Mm,
a part of the process because if it's not working, there's no point in like stressing yourself out and
exactly.
trying to make it fit when it just doesn't, and that oftentimes leads you to like a better result because you see something from a different perspective that you hadn't before. And to go back to the Alien portrait series,
Yeah.
that's kind of like exactly what that was. And how it started was really, I think we've talked about this before, how that was actually an accident. I never planned
Hmm.
to like actually do that specific series. It just started off with me wanting to play. And that's another thing that I really love doing. Again, not taking things too seriously, but just playing around and sitting in front of my camera. The first photo that I ever did, it was a self portrait of me. And that's like how I even got into photography in the first place, um, was by doing that. And it was during the pandemic, so I couldn't be around people. So my only subject had to be myself. And I just remember getting up one day and feeling inspired to do something. And I set up my camera in my bedroom. My cats are like in between my legs, running and
Hmm.
jumping and like being annoying like they always are.
Yeah, just like mine
And
was.
yeah, and it like frustrated me, but I was still was like, okay, I wanted to do this, so I'm gonna like at least see it through. And if it's not working, then at least I can say I tried. And I looked through the photos like after I finished and I hated them
Mm,
so much. And it was partly because I just didn't feel attractive for some reason. I looked at the photos and I was like, wow, I don't like this person
mm,
actually. And I challenged myself to love what I saw. I was like, I
hmm.
don't love this now, but maybe I can love this person eventually.
Yeah.
And I printed out so many photos, of like my favorite image of the set that I took, and I just cut it up and I stretched it and I crumpled it, put it in water and like let it look all like disintegrated
Mm.
until a version of it came out to be something that I could enjoy. And then I scanned it back into my computer and then did more edits. And I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And it
Yeah,
just
that
kind
just
of,
gives me chills.
yeah,
Like I didn't know that was the what that's what led to all those
that's
images.
what led to that. And
Yeah.
then after I kind of figured out like, oh, this is like a formula that I could
Yeah.
do over and over again. And then that's when I did the Alien Portrait series because I figured out like one, aliens in space has been something I've always been obsessed with. I
Yeah.
think everything that I try to make is like fantastical, and because I have like a kind of disconnect with like earth earthly things,
Hmm.
so it's like my mind just always elsewhere, and I try to tap into that as much as I can. And photography has, for me, shown that that's like kind of easy to do,
Yeah.
and I just try to have fun with that. So
You were talking about you woke up feeling inspired. What kind of what's going on in your head when you're feeling inspired? Like how does your body feel? Like what is it?
mm,
Because I know for me, like I'll go like a few months without having any ideas, and it kind of makes me depressed. I'm like, what's
I
wrong?
have that too. I'm
Yeah,
actually going through that right now, or I'm coming out of that actually.
yeah,
It's been really hard to really get back in the groove of things because I now work a full time job.
mhm,
Um, and but every day my mind is always constantly going and thinking of new ideas, and I just don't always have the energy to like do anything with it.
yeah,
But I write it down and hope that like I can eventually come back to it and do something with it. And I finally feel like I'm close to that point
yeah,
again where I can just really like make something because I really want to. It brings me a lot of joy to like take a photo, and it just is like beautiful.
hmm,
Um, but what it feels like, it's like just very energized. Like I'm just like very like giddy, high
yes,
energy, um, sporadic movements, and
yeah.
like
I can relate to
because
that.
because it's like if I don't like harness the energy like immediately,
Hmm.
it's going to like go
It's
away
gone.
so fast. So I like try my best to like do something as fast as I can to
Yes,
get whatever it is out, because it would probably take days or weeks for me to get that kind of high
yeah.
again. So
Why do you think like why do you think creatives or you like go through these phases where it's like um periods of inactivity and then all of a sudden we have these inspirations? Do you do anything like in your downtime to fuel your creativity?
I guess in my downtime, what I do the most of is listen to music.
Yes.
I get a lot of my inspiration from that for some reason. Um, that or reading,
Hmm.
um, really any kind of escape in media that I can like um, just really fall into, because it's like clues everywhere, and just
Yes.
very small things can like inspire like really big ideas. So I do a lot of that: movies, books, music.
Yeah. And we were talking about this early, but there's some queerness in your work.
Yeah.
You like to express your queer identity.
Mhm.
What was it like, or what is it like expressing that? And um, what were there any challenges with that?
Um, a lot of challenges actually. It's like every day I feel that it's a challenge in expressing my queerness. But at the same time, it's really freeing.
Hmm.
I remember when I first started to like do photography and do art and wanted to be seen. It really started, I think, in architecture school. I came out in an essay to the staff, because I didn't want to like go into the program and kind of have that be something that people just didn't know.
Yeah.
And it was like 2016, I had just graduated high school, and I had just come out to my parents as well. So it was a very touchy and like scary like subject for me, but I wanted to be like honest and open about it and told everybody, and they were like, okay, not a big deal. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
and that kind of
That's
set
a
the tone.
blessing.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really cool to like have like classmates and my professors just like really welcomed me with open arms and just loved the fact that I was me.
Yeah.
And that really helped me get really comfy in like my queerness and expressing that through work. Whereas like first it was like through buildings and conceptual like massings that we do in class, to taking that and translating it into the photography work that I was
Hmm.
doing, and just really trying to show like my femininity and embracing other people's femininity and like helping them bring that out of them, and like collaborations. And it's just, yeah, it's really cool. And I think it's really important to like show that people like us exist, and we're like cool as fuck, and
Yeah, it
we
is
deserve
cool
to
as
be
fuck.
seen.
I like, I just love being part of the queer community because, like, you know, being queer isn't a choice, but I would choose it because it's, like you said, cool as fuck. So, how do you like? How would you describe? Um, how do you think queer art is like special, apart from other art? What do you think queerness brings to art?
Ooh, I actually think being queer is like a superpower,
Yes.
because in a lot of ways I feel like we all have this like shared experience where we just had like really difficult childhoods,
Hmm.
because maybe we were like afraid of being made fun of, or people just like picked on us for like very small specific things, and we learned to like kind of close ourselves off. And then I would imagine that most of us have kind of at least tried to work through that, and in a way helps us realize that showing love and being true to who you are is like one of the most important things, and you have to really live that way in order to like get close to being happy for one, and close to making like really impactful work. And I think that that all of that just kind of sets us up to like make really magical things in a way, because we just, I don't know, we have to like, what am I trying to say? It's like this idea that the light that we have inside of us, it's almost like we've had to, at least for me, I've always known that I had a light, and I found ways to protect it. And maybe it was like really dim at certain
Hmm.
points, but like the more that I nurtured it, it has like shined brighter. And I'm trying to like,
Yeah,
I'm trying to like,
I know what you mean. It's
yeah,
like
it's,
you have to protect that
yeah,
magical quality because
yeah.
being queer is magic. It's 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 a special culture we have. There's like, so many different subcultures. There's so much different queer art that has really um hasn't had the limelight as it should.
Hmm.
And it's like an act of rebellion
Yeah,
for us to do that,
yeah,
to make queer
very
art.
much that.
And you were talking about being a kid. What did creativity look like when you were a kid? Were you a creative
Mm,
kid?
I was, but I really didn't. I didn't lean into it as much as I could have. It
Mm.
was very much like I was afraid to do so.
Yep.
And my first medium, I guess, was drawing. I really wanted to like draw portraits. I'd always been obsessed with like portraits, but like
Yeah.
specifically portraits of women,
Yes.
just because they are who inspire me the most. And I remember, um, maybe it was like seventh or eighth grade, I had drew maybe like two or three photos, and it was one was of like a heel, a girl on a dance floor had like this checkered pattern, and the shoe was like red, I think. And I drew a portrait of a lady who had this like curly hair. It was probably like really shit. I have no idea what it looks
All our
like,
first drawings are.
but I,
I definitely have some questionable drawings.
yeah, and I was like really proud of it, like really proud. And I took to school. And at the time, you know what, it was eighth grade, because at the time we our school had this like bright idea to like separate boys and girls. So I had only
Yikes.
classes with boys,
Yeah. That sounds
and
awful.
it was
Yeah.
horrible. But I thought I had like a group of friends who like, you know, were down for me or whatever. So I was like, they probably appreciate this. So I took the school, the paintings or the drawings, and I showed them in like one of our free periods, and they laughed at me and like were so so like mean about
Mm.
it. They're like, "Why are you drawing this? This is like gay." And like one of them even took their pencil and like poked a hole through like the drawing and like ripped it in half. And I literally never did anything like that again. And I
Way to
really,
silence somebody.
yeah, it really sucked. That hurt a lot actually. I forget who it was, but it was like four guys and we were just like, "It's gay as hell."
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, I'm not denying
Yeah.
it. It was purely gay,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just wanted to express that, and I was like, wow, maybe I just can't do this yet.
Mm.
And that was kind of how I spent the rest of my um, educational career, from 8th to 12th grade,
Yeah.
just kind of in the shadows and not really leaning into who I really was. And it wasn't until I got to college who I just finally accepted and did whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've definitely had a similar experience. I grew up in a small town in Mississippi and um, was very creative. It was hard to suppress that. And I got called gay for that and mocked for being creative. And it took so long for me to come out of that and um, accept myself as an artist. And that's my true self. You know, when I was 5 years old, I told my mom I wanted to be an artist. And, you know, it, even though it was so long ago, it didn't take me until my like late 20s for me to like start putting my art out there more. Cause that stuff is really, it can be really damaging to, to go through that. You were talking about women inspiring you. If you had to choose, this might be a hard question, but if you had to
ooh,
choose top three women who inspired you the most, who would it be?
ooh, um, Ariana Grande
Yes.
for sure, Grace Jones,
Yes.
and Tracy Ellis Ross.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. What about those three like give you inspiration?
For Ariana, it's the fact that I just simply love her music and I love what she stands for. And pretty much every album that she's dropped, I've kind of felt like I felt like that we've like lived the
Hmm.
same experience.
Yes, I
And
feel the same way. That's
yeah,
crazy you said
it's so
that.
crazy because like I'm a person, I find it really difficult to put things into words, especially
Mm,
my emotions. And so like I can feel like really intensely, but like I don't know how to share it,
yeah.
or how to even like describe what it is. And then I listen to her music and I'm like, oh, that's
Mm,
exactly what I feel. And that makes me have like this really special, unique, and very intense bond that I
yeah.
have with her music.
Yeah, I feel like Eternal Sunshine, like I'll listen to that from the start to finish and I just feel so much better. I think it like I'm not like trying to exaggerate, but it like healed like a wound in me
Yeah,
somehow.
same.
I don't know what the hell she put
It,
in that, but it changed my life.
yeah, that album really, it made me open my eyes,
Hmm.
to like leave the situation that I was in. I was like, oh, maybe this, yeah, I should not be in this because
Yeah.
I understand that this is what I've been feeling this whole time, and it's not
Hmm.
healthy for me or for them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just like small things like that, and it's literally every album cycle. I'm like, oh,
I know.
yeah.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. What about Grace Jones?
Grace Jones, just the iconicness of
Yes.
like her stature and her aura is just like alien esque, and that's something that I've
Hmm.
always appreciated. And like seeing a black woman be that, and like doing it like years ago, like 80s or 70s, just being that innovative and that elegant, really. And I try to really embody that energy whenever I'm in front of and behind the camera.
Yeah. I
Because it's
see
just
that.
ethereal and she's gorgeous and experimental, and I just want to push boundaries
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And Tracy Ellis
Tracy
Ross.
Ellis Ross fashion,
Yes.
her like willingness to like put on anything and
Hmm.
make it her.
Yeah.
It's a really hard thing to do. I feel like I haven't really gotten to that point yet of like having my own sense of style, but like she inspires me to like really take it there and
Yeah.
not be afraid to be seen and be afraid to be like this quirky, big, bright red bubble that she sometimes is, like literally a bubble.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just want I actually, I guess, to like tie all three in, they all to me represent like freedom and love and like peace in a
Hmm.
way. Like it's like something that they promote, and maybe they don't really try to do that, but they just evoke that kind of energy, and it's something that I want to like have in my life all the time.
Yeah.
So
They do lead by example. And I totally see, like, I definitely think you have your own personal fashion style.
yeah.
Like every time I see you out in public, it's always a different outfit. And like, how do you put together your outfits? Where do you,
Uh,
how does that come together?
Well, one, it's just like vibes,
Yeah.
honestly. Sometimes I look a mess. I'm not gonna lie. I like go back and look at photos like, oh, that didn't work.
Hmm.
But I thrift a lot. And so I just kind of find pieces that are fun.
Yeah.
Because I love color and I
Same.
love like baggy clothes. I'm trying to like switch a little bit to get into like a little more form fitting things
Hmm.
because I want to feel chic
Yeah.
and
As we get older,
slim.
it's like all of a
Yeah,
sudden we want to be chic.
yeah. And so that's like the wave I'm trying to like get on now. But just really find things that like connect
Yeah.
with me. I take my time when I shop, and sometimes when I go to like thrift stores, I don't see anything, and I try not to leave with things that don't really resonate with me. And when I do, I grab and I buy no matter.
Yeah. I love that. I want to start doing that more. That
Yeah,
inspires me to, because like I've always been like, I just want to be comfortable.
yeah.
And I don't know, sometimes I can get boring, and
Mm,
I want to express myself more. So
yeah,
that inspires me.
you should.
Last question.
Okay,
If you had all the money in the world, what would be your dream project?
my dream project,
Yeah.
to make a film,
Okay.
like feature length film, or maybe not feature, maybe short film,
Yeah.
but definitely wanting to bring the worlds in my head to life
Hmm.
and seeing and showing people what that is, because it's crazy and it's beautiful. I
Yeah.
just don't have the means to like do things like that right now, but I think that would be so cool, and it's something I've always wanted to do, is make a
Mm.
movie.
Would aliens be involved?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured. I figured.
Yes.
Well, all right. Thank you so much for talking to me. Like,
Thank you.
I think I got chills like 4 times as we
Oh
were
shit.
talking. So you're a huge inspiration for me. You like set the standard. You're on another level, and
Oh wow.
I really can't wait to see what you come up with
Oh,
and
that was.
your feature film.
Thank you so much for that. That actually just touched me. Wow.
Yeah, it's
That's.
true. It's true. Well, thank you so much. Mhm.
Thank you.
Scene.
D.